Hey everyone, we're back again for another episode of It Starts With Plastic Free. You've got Corey and myself today. Corey, how are you, mate?
Good, mate. Excited to talk about fashion today.
We're talking about fashion.
Look at these shirts.
I just keep hearing that David Bowie song in my head, fashion. But anyway,
Please don't sing it.
I won't sing it because I know you don't like my singing.
No.
But fashion and plastics. Now this is a common one, and it's being shouted out more, but it's a lot easier to talk about than actually action, I find, because there's so much plastic in clothing.
Well, again, 60% of clothes are made of plastic.
And that's probably, that stat, that's recent, but I'm thinking back when I was a kid, things like sportswear and underwear, etc., and schoolwear, wasn't plastic based, but now we're seeing all these materials like acrylics and nylons in there.
Yep.
And there's reasons they're in there. They've given us things like water resistant properties and elasticity and wear and tear, etc. But
stretch in jeans.
The stretch jeans, which is a classic. But things like jeans are a classic, everyday clothing, socks.
Yeah.
Like how many people buy socks that are of natural fibres? Whereas sports socks and other socks are all acrylic plastic-based materials, and so this ends up into landfill when they're lifesaver. But as we know, washing them can really create issues because that stat about from a 6 kilo wash of acrylic clothing, you end up with almost 1 million particles bloody in the
outrageous
fibres. So I think we need to be aware of when we are buying clothes now, because I always talk about consumer power, and the consumer will demand what they want, and then suppliers will end up providing that. But when we're looking at clothes and you read the tags, the common ones we'll see often are things like polyester, acrylic.
So these are ones that contain plastic.
Nylon, lycra, that whole plastic.
Yeah.
But then there's all the little fine print sometimes that we don't take notice of, and they might have a microfiber. What does a microfiber mean? Well, a microfiber is plastic.
Yes.
Things like they call them elastane. There's polypropylene, which we know is in a lot of wet wipes, and same in clothing. But then there's the spandex, and then you get the chiffons, taffeta was discussed, which I know having a lot of female clothing.
Yes.
Organza. But what are the alternatives, and what do we do as consumers or responsible people that want to reduce plastic but not go backwards in time in terms of inferior quality clothing?
Yeah. Well, we just want to buy natural fibres where possible and understand the names of those fibres that all do contain plastic. The camping shops are interesting as well in that space. They seem to be, apart from probably the waterproof jackets, which unfortunately are all plastic, or a lot of them.
Yep.
But certainly in the sock space and the likes, there's a real drive in those sorts of shops around natural fabrics.
And they dry quicker when you're camping, and from the breathability side.
So hemp, bamboo, cotton, as we mentioned.
And then there's the likes of people like us that are wearing t-shirts and shorts, or t-shirts and jeans all day. So t-shirts, cotton t-shirts, there's good hemp products out there now, bamboo, and we've seen that even advertised with underwear, being aware of those materials. The other areas were things like flax, which is used in linen, ramine, jute, abaca, silk. Now I know silk's at the high end of where it's at, but some of those more exotic plastics like taffeta, etc., aren't cheap either.
Yeah.
And if you are a designer in this field, or you're a retailer, do you start to offer these natural materials and promote it? Because I think consumers are aware of where this potentially could go and what they're looking for. And I look at mums. Mums shop a lot for the kids, and that's where it really could start. And knowing that I've got a life extension of clothing because I've got kids that are growing, do we pass them on to others, or if they end up in landfill, if it's a natural fibre, it'll break down. But how can we avoid? There are those products, like I think of some of my running gear. I wear my skins. Now there's no natural materials at the moment on those, but when I wash them, I should be using cold water to avoid the microplastics end up in the ocean. You go on.
I was going to say, in summary, not in summary, but plastic clothing versus natural clothing. So we've got a choice to make: buy a polyester t-shirt or a cotton t-shirt.
Yeah.
The reasons, we don't want to buy a polyester t-shirt. There's 4 elements to plastic clothing, like polyester. One is you're starting with crude oil.
Yep.
Which is not a good thing to be using more of that. Number 2, manufacturing polyester requires toxic chemicals in the manufacturing process.
Yep.
Number 3, washing, as we mentioned. Washing pollutes the ocean. Interesting stat, laundry is responsible for 35% of primary microplastics in the ocean.
Wow.
As you mentioned, a huge number of microplastics come off like polyesters when we wash them and go down the drain and through the filters and out. So, and number 4 is disposal. As we know, you put this into landfill, takes years to break down, and when it does break down, it breaks down into microplastics.
And when you explain it like that, literally there's zero benefit, like from the outset through to its end of life.
Spot on.
There's a whole lot of negatives there.
Yeah, so make the switch.
Make the switch to plastic-free clothing where you can, and maybe when you're out there talking to your retailers or those of you in the textile game or the clothing game, these are the conversations we need to start having. And would the consumer, if they're aware of these issues, take up the plastic-free alternatives? I think they will.
Yeah, for sure.
I think they'll start to look for that. And also in terms of how that spreads on to other areas with fabrics and fibres, which we can use in another episode, that are outside of clothing, but in tableware, etc., and all those sorts of areas, tea towels and the likes. If you've got any comments, etc., please put them our way. Don't forget to subscribe. And remember, make the switch to plastic-free wet wipes, Australian-made ones. We'll see you next time.